All right, time for Monster Monday. I'm reorganizing my garage, so I had to move the camera because there's a bunch of shit behind here right now. So that explains the new angle. Let's talk about Late Phase's Night of the Lone Wolf. Now, that's weird. This title only really comes with certain editions of it, so I'm not exactly sure why the title is different here and there. It's just kind of like a little subtitle here on it. But yeah, so mostly it's just called Late Phases, but this one's Night of the Lone Wolf as well. Now, this movie I just think is fantastic. I love this film. I think it is one of the great werewolf films, especially of late, in the last 10, 15 years or whatever. Freaking forget it, man. This movie, I off the top of my head, in the last 10 years, I don't think there's any better. Is there? I mean, maybe I'm not thinking of one right now. I'm sure there's other people who have, you know, maybe Underworld or something, but I just think this is it of the most recent. Like, my favorite werewolf movie is Bad Moon, but that's like 93 or something, so that's like 25 freaking years old now. It's crazy. Anyway, so now this movie, I think the majority of the credit for this movie goes to Nick Damisi, who plays the main character here, and the makeup artist as well for not only doing the werewolf stuff, but I don't know if the guy who did the werewolf stuff or, you know, the people who did the werewolf stuff also did his makeup, but we kind of got a Exorcist thing going on here where they aged him considerably. I mean, he's only 54 years old in this movie, and he's playing like he's 70. I mean, so he looks great. And if you ever see Nick in other movies, he doesn't look very old even for his age now. So now this is the director of Here Comes the Devil, which is a Spanish horror film. Another film that I think is just brilliant and brutal and never ever talked about. This movie also has Ethan Embry in it, which I've talked about Ethan Embry on here a good amount. I think his best movie of late is Devil's Candy, which I've reviewed on here and I think is wonderful. But I mean, man, Ethan Embry, I've been watching that kid all the way back to, like, you know, freaking Empire Records and whatnot. So I think I mentioned this before, but I actually used to date his cousin once upon a time. So that's as close as I ever got to Ethan Embry, but I've never actually met the guy. We also have Lance Guest in here, Jimmy from Halloween 2, and my God, did he age poorly. He's got like this fat neck and he looks so old. The first time I watched this, I saw Lance Guest's name in the opening and I couldn't spot him like almost the entire film. And then I was sitting there and I was looking at him and I was like, oh my God, I think that's him. He looks horrible. Oh my God, it reminds me of like freaking, what's his name? John Connor from Terminator 2. Edward Furlong. When I saw him in the Night of the Demons remake, I was like, what the fuck happened to this guy? Except for Lance Guest is like 60 in this. And, you know, Connor was like not that old at all. So he just let himself go outright. We also have Tom Noonan in this, which, you know, Noonan's been in tons of things like Heat and all sorts of films all across the board. I think he's even in Manhunter as well, the Michael Mann one. I think he is. I think he's, yeah, doesn't matter. But yeah, House of the Devil. Ty West's House of the Devil. I've brought that up on the channel a lot. I adore that film. I'm going to have to go through Ty West's filmography eventually. I'll do a exploring Ty West. But House of the Devil is one of my very favorite horror films of the last 15 years. So that's of course where I know him. And then Larry Fassenden, I don't know how to say his name. He's in tons and tons of horror. I think he executive produced something on this as well. And he also plays a very minor role. So anytime I see him, I know the movie is at least semi-cool just because that guy always gets involved in some pretty cool shit. The opening music of this movie is fabulous as well. I really, really enjoy it a lot. It plays over the the screen when you put the DVD in the menu screen, and man, I could let that play for like 10 minutes and while I was like baking dinner or whatever, or what, you know, it's just such a cool song. It's, the music in this is great, and I don't think it gets talked about enough. In fact, I just don't think this movie gets talked about enough, period. Like when great werewolf movies get brought up, they usually go through the regular American Werewolf in London, blah, blah, blah. And then when they start filtering out and they get like towards the end of the list, they'll start being like, oh, well, Ginger Snaps. And then someone will finally throw in like, oh, Late Phases was pretty cool. No, it wasn't. It was fucking awesome. Okay, I'm here to defend this movie. It is great. I think the problem that most people probably have with this film, this is just my guess, if the people who don't like it, what their reasoning would be, is that it's fairly light on the werewolf action and that it can be rather slow, I suppose, because there's tons and tons of buildup. We get like a quick werewolf attack towards the beginning and then the guy basically preparing and trying to figure it out for almost the rest of the film until the final bit of the third act. You get the werewolf showdown, which I think is just excellent. And it's just so worth the wait. And I think that Nick DeMasi really carries it so well. His performance in this is just wonderful. And he truly like carries this film for me. I feel like if they had a different actor in there, this movie would have dragged, and I would have been like, I think I would have been on board with the people who probably find this to be uneventful and too slow or whatever. I didn't find that at all because I really, really got his character. He resonated with me. I sympathized with him. So it just worked for me completely. I don't think I honestly have a single complaint about this entire film, honestly. All right, so now he is a blind man who is moved into a retirement community. Obviously, we're doing a spoiler review here, but you know, whatever. I'm still going to talk about it. So it's basically just blind man versus werewolves, which is just great. I mean, this guy needs to get together with the dude from Don't Breathe. They seem to have some, Spider-Man abilities going on. Daredevil. Fuck am I talking about? I'm here, I'm wearing a comic book shirt. I think I know what I'm talking about. I do. Yeah. But I meant more like Spidey sense, but Daredevil, whatever, okay? Anyway. The fact that he's out buying his own headstone, I just can't even fathom that. Like going out and shopping for your own headstone, your own casket, stuff like that. Like just being that close to death in your mind. I mean, he wants to die. He's talking about how he's going to be gone in the next 2 weeks, and he's asking for like, a gun store in town so he can pick up some ammunition. He clearly wants to die, and it's almost as if this is, not inconvenience to him. Almost like a calling. Like this is his last hurrah. Like he had nothing else. He was pointless in his mind. He was just gonna go out because he had nothing better to do. He did everything that he wanted to do, and he lived this life, and he did terrible things, and there was just, he was done. And this gave him purpose. This gave him meaning again. And he went out the way he wanted to, as a soldier, as someone who was technically a hero after he felt like he wasn't in Vietnam. So I really liked how that all played out. And just the way he is in this, I mean, I hate to even think about ever getting old because it sounds just awful to me, honestly. Once your body starts to let go. But the way he interacts with everybody, I hate to think I would actually be like that, but I think I might. I'm so antisocial anyways. I know I have this channel. It seems like I'm very talkative, and I am, but I don't talk to people outside of this channel and outside of work. When I'm in a store, when I'm out in public, I head down, don't like communicating, don't like talking to anybody in the slightest. And I think about this and I watch this, I'm like, God, this is so him. And when he meets the first woman, he's just all like almost like flirty and romantic with her because she seems genuine and sweet. And he gives her that time. She's earned his, friendship or his conversation. And then the other chicks come over, these fake ass chicks. And he just immediately spots it, and he just wants nothing to do with him. He's rude, he's cutting them down, he's saying horrible shit to their face, and they're just like, okay, I guess we'll leave. And it's like, yeah, bye, I don't need you. And when they ever try to interact with him again, he's like, no, like you have no purpose in my life. And that's exactly how I am. So as I said, I just really related with the guy completely. We also get this woman who he was like flirting with earlier. Her kid calls, and this is just such a shitty thing that happens to older people once they get into retirement communities or homes or whatever. This girl calls late at night, hoping that her mom won't answer so she can leave her a message. You know, it doesn't fully outright say that, but you can just tell that's what's going on there. She calls to say, you know, to try to be like, oh, I can't make it. And the mom picks it up, and she's like, oh, I didn't think you'd be awake. Well, we're not going to be able to make it. And it's just like, don't do that. Don't do that. I mean, unless the chick's a bitch. We don't know. She could be. She'd be a dreadful person, and the kids just going through the motions because they feel like obligated to talk to their parents. But if you got a good parent, if they took care of you, take care of them. Seriously. They deserve it. Don't be a fucking dick. Then we get to see a dog versus wolf, very Bad Moon reminiscent here, which I always like because I love Bad Moon. But man, I have to say that, I mean, this film's up there. I would put this on par with Bad Moon for me as a werewolf movie, as a film. I just think it's such a solid, great drama piece with awesome werewolf, you know, moments. Yeah, it works. It works. Obviously, I'm not going to just continue to keep repeating myself here, but God, it just does. Plus, we get actual werewolves in this. Now, the way they look, I'm not opposed to it because I like that they're not the typical werewolf that you see. Although I always want to see my werewolf on two legs. Nothing like a dog, a wolf, any of that shit is not a go for me in the slightest. I know they say that in every werewolf review, but I will say it in every werewolf review. It is not a werewolf unless it is man-like and wolf-like. If it's just on fucking four legs, that is not a werewolf, okay? Like if it just looks like a dog or a wolf, no. Now this is the most unique werewolf I may have ever seen. I honestly can't really pinpoint what it looks like. I was kind of sitting there and I was trying to like figure out like what does this thing look like? Kind of looks like a rat, like a mutated rat in certain things. Like I was trying to really put together what it looks like, but it's an interesting looking thing. It's got like a shorter snout. I think that's what changes it so dramatically from other werewolves, because most werewolves have like a really extended snout. And this one's snout is much, much shorter, and its eyes and its ears, it almost looks like a wolf and a bunny mixed together, which doesn't sound scary, but I really like it. They're completely different than anything I've ever seen. We get a security guard here who just every time they come up, this guy is either watching pornography or looking at pornography, and I love that when the werewolves are attacking the community, the time where he's finally supposed to actually do something with his job, he just hightails it out of there. And I totally get it. If I saw a bunch of werewolves running around in a community and it's just my job, bye. These are all old people anyways. I know that's fucked up, but you guys are all probably gonna die pretty soon. There's werewolves. I'm not talking about like, you know, a fucking murderer or something, a person, and I had the chance. This is a werewolf. If you saw a werewolf, you take off, okay? Let's get straight. So yeah, no freaking way. And Demasi as well, I mean, just in his performance on just the personality chart, but he plays a blind man really well. Like the far away stare, the not really knowing his surroundings, but also being able to play off the fact that he's, you know, a little more in tune with it than most might be because of what a soldier he is. So he has a good balance of those two things going on. So I thought he was very successful in that. And a lot of killing of dogs in this, which is I'm not ever a huge fan of, but it, you know, makes sense. They're always on to the dude. So And the reveal of who the werewolf ends up being, because you know, Nick thinks it's Tom Noonan's character throughout the majority of it, and when he goes to make the silver bullets, he pulls up the name, and the guy's like, oh, and his name was, and it just cuts straight to Lance Guest, and he's got cleaning out his wounds, and I just thought that that reveal was excellent. We don't get like the name and then the guy's like, oh, and there's the dun dun dun. Like it just cuts straight to him. No bullshit, just right to him. And it's like, you don't even have to like hear the name and then try to piece together like, wait, is that the priest's name? Or is that the other guy? Or wait, who's that again? Like, boom, cuts right to him. We don't even have to hear his name. We don't have anything. I thought that reveal was handled really, really well. And then the son comes over to tell his dad, like, hey, you know, we're having a kid and my wife wants to move out of the state. Like, your father's close to death and you're going to let your wife tell you that you're moving away? No. No. I do understand his dad's kind of impossible and this and that, but nah. Yeah, anyway. But I like how, like, when he leaves, his dad just kind of, like, descends back into the darkness. You know, almost like reverse of Michael Myers coming into the light. Like he just kind of creeps back into the darkness. It's like his son brings him like sort of into the light and just has him on the edge of like thinking about it, gives him the ring. And then when his son leaves him and he has nothing left, he completely descends into the darkness where he lives anyways. I mean, he's blind, but I just like, I don't know. I guess I looked into that a little too much, but I liked how I saw that scene in my head anyway. And you know, the fucking Lance Guest character tries to attack a blind man from behind and kill him when he's just out in his yard and he's unsuccessful. Really, is it really hard to attack a blind man? I mean, you could fucking shoot, you could do anything to him from a distance. He couldn't do anything about it, but it doesn't matter. But he realizes like, this dude is no shit. He's on to me. He's figuring this out. Like, he could have just ran away, but I guess he decides that he's staying there. This is his community. He's keeping it. I don't know why he doesn't just leave, but he does, and he goes out and he makes himself an army. He knows he can't take this guy on alone, so he goes and he bites all the neighbors across. And that's kind of a play on the lore and the mythos of werewolves, which I always appreciate in these movies, that even though he's not in werewolf form, and it's during the day in one of these scenes, he goes and he bites the neighbor next door and turns her, even though he's just human, full on. But yeah, I thought that was an interesting spin on it because we don't usually get that. Now, as I said, the transformation in this, wow, so great. Every part of his body we get to see ripping apart, the nails through the hands, everything. And then like his teeth all break out of his mouth. And it's like the way the camera's moving, it's like coming in and out and up and down. It's all in one looking shot. Probably isn't in one shot, but it looks like it all is. And it's scanning up and down. It's going back to Noonan's perspective, then back over here and kind of coming around, and his teeth pop out and his fucking snout. And then he just grabs his face under his lips and traps the skin, and he just rips his whole face off, and the werewolf's under. It's freaking awesome. I don't know why this transformation isn't talked about more. Because even though there's probably some CGI enhancements, I can only imagine, it looks mostly practical and it looks excellent. So even if there is some CGI on it, I really couldn't even tell where it was, to be honest. I think there's some in the nails and stuff, but it looks so good. And I have the Blu-ray and it looks excellent. So it's not like it's like, you know, you could attribute to like bad lighting or a different copy or whatever. Like, I saw it in full HD and it looks really, really good. And I like that we kind of just immediately knock out any chance of Ambrose or, you know, Nick Nemesi's character surviving this. Like, there's no chance. Like, as soon as it starts, it's like the first werewolf that comes and attacks him claws his whole side out. So, I mean, he could survive technically, but he'd be a werewolf, and I don't think he'd allow that. So I think he'd kill himself. So I think, and I feel like that wound that he has is fatal. That thing was deep, and he'd be bleeding out like crazy. And then we just get a full-on werewolf invasion in the house. It's like you know, an invasion or a home invasion film. what I was going for there. And he just takes these things on as a blind guy, and you know, it never feels ridiculous, honestly. Like, you could sit there and be like, how could he possibly? But I don't know, he plays it so well. It's not like he's just expertly, like, it's not like one of those things where he's like, you know, like behind the back and over here. And it's not like that at all. It's like he uses his, you know, hearing aid as a tool, and he puts it in to listen for them to get close, and then he takes it out before he fires his gun because it would probably deafen him if he left it in there. So I like that attention to detail, and I like that he gets, like, this is it. This is his last stand. So he throws on his arm, you know, his not fatigues, but his what the hell do they call it? Uniform, sorry. And you know, this is it. He's going in as a soldier. He's dying as a soldier. He introduces him as a soldier, like he's proud of that part of his life, even though he seems to regret it as well. So I like that he's going out the way he wants to. And using the hearing aid was really cool. And just some of the gore and the attacks and the, you know, the way the werewolves, like the werewolf jumps on Ton Noonan's car, that looks awesome. The werewolf jumps up on top of the house. Like, the budget on this had to be pretty damn good. And then Noonan, or Demisi's character, Ambrose, is like shooting him in the face and takes a shotgun and blows one of their heads completely off. It like rips apart. And just so many great gore effects, so many great moments. And then, yeah, and then he takes down the last one by, like, you know, Home Alone rigging this tomb to fall on. Reminds me of Creepshow, and Ed Harris is down on the grave and the tombstone falls on him. And he takes that one out and he sits in the chair and he just says, I'm done. Or, yeah, I think it's I'm done. And he just dies. And he just went out the way he wanted. Ethan Embry comes and he sees a werewolf. I like that they did that Embry's character came up and saw, like, first he saw a human body and you thought, like, oh shit, he's gonna think his dad's a murderer, and they were gonna play it that way. But then he got to see a werewolf. Now, however the cops came and whatever his legacy will be from that point on, what his name will be, because the cops will probably say he murdered a bunch of people on his property, his son will know the truth. And so I thought that was good. I thought that, you know, knowing his dad wasn't crazy and he was a hero was a good way for the son and his story and arc to end. And then the son grabs his rifle and takes it to his funeral, and he shoots the moon. Anybody shoot the moon? Shoot the moon? Cheech and Chong. Anyway, yeah. So I like that he shoots at the full moon with the rifle at the grave, and that's like the end of the movie. So great symbolism, you know, like it's like he's getting back at the moon for killing his father. Awesome stuff. Such a great movie. So anyway, guys, all right, I think I've raved about this movie enough, but happy Monster Monday. I gotta go record some Are You Afraid of the Dark? All right.